there are few questions about Indian history. Entire history of the Western this thing you find when the history of India or the history of the West is narrated, this is about the history of Alexander. Nowhere in any Sanskrit literature or Pali literature or Prakrit literature or the local dialects, I could find any mention of Alexander. Greek generals like Menander, who later became Milind, and others, that there was no this thing. It was a non-event. It was a very small event of history where some raiders, the horsebacks came, probably wanted to plunder or come to these things, and thereafter got the resistance, and thereafter they returned back. But you made such a big mountain of it. There are few questions about Indian history that nobody questions, even our detractors. One is its continuity. Or I'll come to continuity later. One is its antiquity. That it is one of the oldest civilizations. And probably the human life had evolved and society had perfected itself to a very high this thing. Now, who did it, whether they were the original people or they came from outside, they may be biased about that. But they all concede that this is a very, very a civilization of antiquity. Second is that it is the continuity. That is, if it started 4,000 or 5,000 years before this thing, BC or this thing, it had been continuous till today. There is no disruption in that. So it was the continuity. And the third feature was its a vast expanse. It was not a small hamlet that you find somewhere with a developed island or something like that. It is right from the river Oxus to probably Southeast Asia and others, where the footprints of the civilization were very visible. Now the paradox is this, that when you think on this expanse of 6,000 or 8,000 years of the continuous history of in such a vast area, the narrative that has been brought is that probably the first chapter about Indian history in any of the Western this thing, it starts with Alexander. That Alexander was the first this thing as if he discovered India. And it was the victory of the West over the East. He conquered India. Actually, he only came to the border of India to Jhelum and then probably was not able to proceed further, and thereafter that was the end of him. But the fact remains that the entire history of the Western this thing you find when the history of India or the history of the West is narrated, this is about the history of Alexander. Now, Justice William Jones, who was in Calcutta High Court from 1746 to 1792, he had written, and he became a big Sanskrit scholar and he studied Sanskrit here. He said that nowhere in any Sanskrit literature or Pali literature or Prakrit literature or the local dialects, I could find any mention of Alexander. There is no mention. Where there was a copious literature written by not only him, but also the subsequent Greek generals like Menander, who later became Milind, and others, that there was no this thing. It was a non-event. It was a very small event of history where some raiders, the horsebacks came, probably wanted to plunder or come to these things, and thereafter got the resistance, and thereafter they returned back. But you made such a big mountain of it, as if the world history has changed with Alexander the Great Conqueror. And thereafter then you find, then it comes to the medieval ages, more to a distance of the Muslim this things, and then the Mughal Empire. If anybody comes to Delhi and wants to visit the historical places of the tourist this thing, well, he will find it will be the Taj Mahal or Red Fort or Humayun Tomb or any of these places. As if that is all what the history is all about. Why it happened so? There's something for us to ponder. That why was it? We can have this thing that we didn't write our own history. Yes, that's one of the reasons. Why did it happen? One, of course, is the factor that there was a foreign domination, and this foreign domination of physical domination can be accomplished through your armies, through this thing, but for mental domination, it is necessary that they should have no sense of pride in their own history, in their past. Nations are members of a nationhood are those people who share a common sense of the history, common sense of our ancestors, common sense of their achievements of the past, and a common vision of their future. All those who believe in that, they make one nation. People who have got a different sense of history, if my hero is your villain, you and I cannot make a nation. So for the nationhood, not to develop the feeling of the nationhood, it was that necessary that the foreign domination was responsible to some extent. Then there was a deliberate attempt to destroy the vestiges of the proofs of that. Now it's not only the temples, that religious bigotry, this thing, but institutions like Nalanda or Takshila or the libraries or these things, they were the prime targets, that they have to be destroyed, and that any sources from where Indians could connect themselves to their glorious past, that has got to be connected. But there was another reason for that. That was the Indians' own mindset. And the India's own mindset was that for us, events and personalities were very secondary events. It was the thoughts, the intellect, evolution of these things, the science, technology, the outer space, the inner space, what is the universe and this thing. That is what constituted the focus of the intellectual these things. So we don't find that treatise about the kings or the queens, their marriages and divorces or killings, or this thing, as Mr. Gurumurthy said, it's not only about the conquest and the killings and domination and subjugation, which was the history. They were the people, they were peripheral. Material part, anything that was material, was considered to be much more mundane than something which was more sublime, that was more intellectual and more thoughtful. Now that focus of intellectualism, probably, even if when there are some references, and that is why this thing in the literature or this thing like that, say in Raj Tarangani, other in Kallan, writing something and others, there are passing remarks. The more thing is that he's talking about the nature, he's talking about the rivers, he's talking about the mountains, he's talking about this thing. There are the various types of things that he has mentioned. It's not the chronology of these things or something of the great achievements of the people. Now, this combination of these factors deprived us of our having the right sense of our own existence and identity. And history is important for your identity. History is important for you to understand who you are and what you are. You build your future on the basis of what you think was your past. And this probably was internalized by no one else better than Swami Vivekananda. When he was addressing the youth in Alwar, he said, I want the Indians to write their own history. But he emphasized, not that I wanted to write a wrong history to build up the morale of the Indians. I want the right, correct, authentic, objective history.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.